I didn't get that spoiled for me, the look of Count Orlok at all. Like going into the theater, it was still going to be fresh to me.
I'm ready.
Drive-by Movies here, and you're watching
Fresh releases.
My name is James.
My name is Blaise.
And today we're checking out the gothic thriller Nosferatu.
We are here encountering the vampire. Nosferatu.
But what about Nosferatu 3? Anyways, Nosferatu is about a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. So James, this is Robert Eggers' long kind of, I think he dreamed about making Nosferatu ever since I heard he directed a play of it in high school, apparently. So this has kind of been his dream project. And it's kind of been that carrot on a string that throughout his career that, you know, studios have been waving at him like, oh, if you keep making great movies for us, you'll finally get your dream and be able to direct Nosferatu. Did this film live up to that hype?
Well, I know that this is a movie that I think he was doing as a sophomore feature, if I'm not mistaken. I swear they announced this after The Witch came out. But, you know, we got The Lighthouse, then we got The Northman, and we finally got this film. I'm not sure. I need to ask him directly. He's going to lie and say, yes, he did. But I'm just like, I feel like there's a very different movie here that we would have got if we got it a few years earlier. Like casting choices. I feel like how did Lily Rose Depp come into play? Like, I feel like this role was intended for Anya Taylor-Joy. And I feel like that is the case. I don't know what the news is. Like, you know, scheduling conflicts probably happen. Just because, you know, she's been working on that Furiosa movie for a while. And this came out within the same year as that movie. So who knows? Beyond that, though, I mean, I'd say that it is a very stylish, beautiful movie that I did quite enjoy. But it didn't leave the bite impression I was expecting from it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. I actually really enjoyed this movie, but there were certain parts of it that kind of made me wonder, like, did it really need to be that 2 hour and 30 minutes runtime that it had? Or I think it was a little bit even over that, if I can remember correctly. But yeah, like, I just felt like this thing was way too bloated. But when it comes to like this movie overall, like the production design I thought was incredible. I know we all know that Robert Eggers like came from being a production designer, but yeah, I thought that all that stuff was awesome. I think this did help having, you know, not been his sophomore film. This is now his, I think it's his fourth feature. And I think that helped. Like the budget of this is definitely, you know, up there. This film is very grand, very epic. And yeah, I liked a lot of the choices in this film. There were some choices that definitely we can kind of get into a little bit later, but yeah, I didn't love, but overall, I'd say there were a lot of aspects I really loved about this movie. And one of those is actually Lily Rose Depp. I wasn't really sure. I kind of like going into this, I'm like, is she really, I haven't really seen her in anything. So I'm like, is this just like a nepotism kind of pick, or like, you know, she's younger, so is it her chance to kind of shine? And is she going to really take that opportunity and seize it? And I have to say, I was honestly really surprised by her performance. She does a lot of convulsing, yes, but I thought that her performance was absolutely incredible. Like I was on board, you know, after like between like most of the movie, I was like, wasn't sure if I was on board yet with her just convulsing. And then there's one specific scene with Nicholas Hoult where my jaw was literally dropped. I was honestly so shocked at how good of a performance she gave between like just showing like all these raw emotions, and it was almost very primal in a way. And I just have to say I was really impressed by her, and I was expecting to come out of this movie like enjoying it, but thinking that she was going to be the thing that sank this ship.
See, that's very surprising to hear, because that was a great review you just gave of her. I couldn't stand her in this movie. She was just overdoing it for me, and I thought that it's not because I wanted to see Anya Taylor-Joy within this movie. I mean, it's just like, I don't know, just for her to be in this movie, I don't really know anything about her. I haven't seen her in anything. I know that I think the only thing I came close to watching was Yoga Hosers, but I didn't end up watching that. I know that she has one sequence in Tusk, but she probably says like 1 or 2 lines, and I don't remember that. So I'm not really familiar with her work other than her just being Johnny Depp's daughter. But yeah, just her performance didn't work for me. And I wouldn't say that she was bad necessarily, though, because I never thought that while watching it. I just thought that she was very serviceable and did the scenes that like she needed to, but at times I just like kind of like laughed it off. And I know that that's a problem with this movie, and I feel bad if you're seeing it at like AMC theaters and people are laughing at her performance, because I wouldn't say it's comedic, but it just wasn't working for me and just was taking me out. But I need to say though that like part of the reason why I hated this, or not hated this movie, why I'm disappointed with it, is also just the experience I was in. So I don't know if I was just being nitpickish towards her, but I saw it at the new Cinepolis Theater in Inglewood. I saw Godzilla -1 there. It was a nice theater, I thought. Wanted to check out this movie there. It's a dine-in theater, but this is like where I'm very upset though. Movie's a normal 16:9 movie. I was watching it in like 14.5:9, like not necessarily 4:3. There were just really awkward black bars on the sides, but going up at an angle. I was like, how do you not have the projector placed correctly to just fill up the screen properly? And not only that, there was a dark shadow in the very center, a dark shadow at the very center top area, and like 3 other shadow dots like spread throughout the screen. I was like, did someone like wipe the lens and leave like drops on there? Because like you could still see through those shadows. But I was like, this movie wasn't filmed that way with shadows in 5 random spots. So I was already annoyed with that, and like a couple other things were going on at the theater that was like upsetting me. But yeah, just I couldn't get into her performance, and I'd say Nicholas Hoult and her share the screen a pretty even amount for the most part, but just I wasn't buying it when watching. And but like I said, some other factors were just kind of ruining the experience for me.
That's funny that the projection yours was so bad, because honestly I'd expect that from my screening, because last time I went to my theater, I remember the lights were on, but during the trailer of the movie, and I was like, I didn't care that the lights were on for that, but I was like, when I walked in, I was like looking at the seats, I'm like, oh, I kind of wish the lights were off. Like the seats are pretty fucking gross, that I wish that the lights were off so I didn't have to look at it. Like it kind of took away like the magic of like being in the movies, and you don't have to look at like how disgusting the seats are and stuff. Like they're like 30 years old, they're like covered in stains and stuff. And that cracked me up, where I'm like, I would expect this screen to be like messed up in my theater, have a tear in it or something. Or like there was a screening I went to like last year, I think, and there was like, it was in like a multi-purpose theater that has like plays as well, and they showed Evil Dead the musical there, or they did Evil Dead the musical there, and the screen had blood on it from like the Evil Dead the musical. Gosh. So we're watching like Reanimator 2, and there's like literally blood in the middle of the screen during every scene, and you're just like, y'all couldn't just clean this. But anyways, getting back to Nosferatu, yeah, I kind of understand like that would definitely ruin a lot of like your experience with the movie. And I have to say that a lot of the parts where you're talking about like the audience laughing, I think it just has to do with like the immaturity of like even my audience. There was parts where they were like, there was like a couple girls in front of us, like younger, maybe like college or late high school, that were like laughing at certain scenes that were like, it was mainly Lily Rose Depp's like kind of orgasmic interpretations of, her basically sleeping with Nosferatu in her night terrors. And yeah, like I thought that a lot of that was just like that kind of American immaturity. I don't know if this film would have got that like kind of reaction in other instances. It's just like sometimes when people see things that they're uncomfortable experiencing in a communal way with other people, that they will like kind of just, you know, react of like being uncomfortable. They're just gonna laugh, you know, sometimes. And being that this film is taken like so seriously, and then there's things where you're like, oh, I'm kind of gonna be uncomfortable with this. Even like think about Nosferatu, there is like a, you know, shot where he jumps up and you're like, oh, I didn't expect to see that in this movie. And I think even that was like a part where people in my audience kind of laughed, and that did take me out of those scenes, which I don't think were even like obviously played for laughs. Like this is definitely, you know, played to be very serious, and scenes like that, like if the audience reacts the wrong way, it can definitely take you out of it.
Yeah, so, and funny enough, one of the things that you said took you out of that movie was the lights being on during the shows. That happened for me too during this screening too. So yeah, so there was just like, you would think, oh, a trifecta of messed up things is going to annoy you. No, there was other things too, but I can complain about my experience on Nosferatu, but you know, I also do want to review the movie, and just like overall though, like those are the things that were holding back on it. I still enjoyed it. Like I said, it's just another horror film that came out in 2024 where I went in hyped like Late Night with the Devil, Long Legs, but ended up coming out just like slightly disappointed, but still thoroughly enjoyed. One thing I wanted to say, I was annoyed when Bill Skarsgård got cast for this role. It's like, he's playing another monster. Like, he's not the new Boris Karloff. Like, stop trying to make him like the new Boris Karloff or Doug Jones or something. But no, this is the movie where now it's just like, okay, he's really good. I liked him in Barbarian, but seeing him as Count Orlok I thought was fantastic. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the look that they went with for him. It kind of makes him like kind of blend more. He didn't look as over the top as the original, even though it worked as the original. I liked this new take on it. He like was both gross but also like kind of normal at the same time, but not normal with that bizarre mustache. But his voice that he used though was absolutely fantastic, I thought. Though
that's something actually that I'm very surprised that they've been able to kind of conceal. I didn't get that spoiled for me, the look of Count Orlok at all. Like going into the theater, it was still going to be fresh to me. And that first scene where he's in and the camera's doing so effectively not really showing him, I thought that was so powerful. I'm like, okay, I just can't wait to see him. And you're like still kind of like, you know, obscuring him with over the shoulder shots or like out of focus. And they did such a good job at that to kind of, you know, really show like the terror that Nicholas Hoult was kind of facing, you know, seeing him for the first time. And even us as the audience, like not even being able to see him was really effective. But when we finally get to see him, oh my God, I honestly hated the look of him. I liked that it's original, but I just didn't like that kind of look, because I felt like he weirdly looked like Dr. Eggman or Dr. Robotnik from, he looks like Jim Carrey, like with the mustache. I'm just like, I do really appreciate Bill Skarsgård's performance. I think he did really well. It was just like the look that they decided. I felt like they covered up Bill Skarsgård so much, who has such like a haunting look. I feel like he's just becoming like that, like you mentioned, Doug Jones kind of character, where they just cover him up with makeup every time. And they're making, you know, like, it sucks that his career is kind of going to be that in a way, because I do think that he's a great actor. But I don't know if Pennywise is the closest we're going to be able to get to see like him, you know, where it still looks like him, because this could have been Jim Carrey. But I think that, you know, I don't think Jim Carrey could portray like anything like Bill Skarsgård can. But yeah, I just wish that they went for like a different look that kind of still showcased Bill Skarsgård, and he wasn't just entirely covered up to a point where he looks like another actor. Yeah,
it's still quite shocking. I was surprised too, like that was able to be a secret for me too. I knew going in that he had a mustache based off of like memes and stuff that I read, but I still didn't know what the final look was. So great job marketing for making everyone curious, and just also thank you to also people not spoiling the face and putting it on every single social media app that I am, because that happens normally, but wasn't the case with this. But also glad that Skarsgård got his hit, because I know it's been a rough year with him for The Crow, and I remember a movie called like Boy Kills World that he was in. Both were like big box office failures, so I'm glad that he was able to end the year with a slight hit. But yeah, also effective jump scares within this movie too. You wouldn't expect jump scares out of a movie so moody like this one. You know, it's creepy based off of vibe, and love the grand production that we see within this movie that you were bringing up earlier. But you know, you got to throw in some good scares within the movie to make it memorable. And there were some effective ones within the shipwreck scene, which made me, or not shipwreck, but just the traveling sequences on the ship, and made me really want to check out The Last Voyage of the Demeter, because I never checked out that movie. And
yeah, I'd have to say one last thing about this movie that's not necessarily about the movie, but it's kind of about the state of movies, is I felt like this was just another one of those like kind of nail in the coffins for me when it comes to the state of movies, where it's like, I did enjoy this movie, but I do feel like we could have actually edited at least, like, I feel like you could take an hour out of this movie and it would still be as good as it was. I don't think it really, I know that like we had to go from point A to point B, but I felt like there was times where it was just like you could feel that runtime going, and it just seems like everything nowadays is over 2 hours and over 2 hours, but then we're getting a lot of even just 2 hours and 30 minutes. And it felt like back in the day, you know, maybe a decade ago, maybe even more, if a movie was 3 hours or 2 hours and 30 minutes, it was like an epic. And now every movie's 2 hours and 30 minutes, and no movie's really that epic. So it just feels like it's waning on, I mean, especially with attention spans getting shorter and shorter. It just kind of sucks that that's the state that we're in. I'm not saying like I can't pay attention to 2 hour and 30 minute. I think the takeaway is that it's just kind of like younger audiences can't sit still, and now they're not going to sit still when they even get the chance to go to the movies, because everything's 2 hours and 30 minutes. So you're just really driving them away. When we had decades of great movies that were 90 minutes, I still think that that's capable. And yeah, just where those 90-minute movies, because I mean The Brutalist I think is like 3 hours and like 40 minutes or something like that, with a 15-minute intermission, and I still want to check it out, but I might have to pop like 2 5-hour energies for that one.
Yeah, after doing that last year for Killing of the Flower Moon, or
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do recommend checking it out. It's going to be a movie that I'll continuously play, I think, during its Halloween season, just for spooky vibes and everything. It's very moody and just fun to look at. While it might not do the most for some people narratively, or for just casual horror fans, but you know, if you're a big fan of any of the original Universal monster movies, like, this is a great modern setting of Dracula. And yeah, it captures that story. It is one of the best Dracula interpretations that we've seen, honestly. You know, even though we've seen it so many times before, though, there's always ways to improve it. And yeah, other than the runtime and, you know, some of the difficulties I had while watching the movie, it's still worth checking out. So, you know, great way to help support the show. Check it out in theaters. Leave a comment down below telling us what you thought about the movie.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And speaking of updates, be sure to catch all our social media links down below for Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, as well as our own Letterboxd accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video.